Hey guys, Foxdrop here. Today I want to do a video talking about what to do as a jungler when your lanes are pushed in and it doesn't look like there's a place for you to go and gank. Now this is a topic which has a fair amount of misconceptions around it. A lot of people think that if all your lanes are pushed in, you can't gank, and really that's not necessarily true. There is a lot of stuff you can still be doing, useful things you can still be doing as a jungler in those situations. Before we get on into the video, I just want to say I'm sorry if I look or sound like death. I kind of feel it a little bit. I'm so shattered. I just been to Rotterdam, the spring finals, the LCS finals. It was a lot of fun, but I'm absolutely knackered, so forgive me if any of that shows through. I'm doing my best, boys and girls. I'm doing my best, but please forgive me. Secondly, of course, if you like this kind of videos, just let me know down below in that comment section. Let me know what kind of topics you want me to talk about. This was actually one that I saw in the comment section of a previous video, so I nicked it from that, and I can nick my future ideas from down below as well. And also don't forget, leave those cheeky thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. But anyway, let's get on with it. So like I said, there is a misconception that you can't do anything if all your lanes are pushed. However, it is also fairly true that it is a little harder to do stuff if enemies are under their tower, but it's certainly not impossible, and there certainly is a lot of stuff that you can do, which is what I'm going to be talking about here. Firstly, different kind of ganks you can be doing. Yes, you can still gank when your lanes are pushed. The two types of ganks you can do: you can dive or you can lane gank. Diving is quite simply killing the enemy player under their tower. Now what you want to do to achieve this is you want to be able to kill that person before the tower kills you. Now I know that sounds very obvious, but that works as the foundation for you to decide whether or not you can pull off the dive. So essentially you either want to be able to kill them very quickly or survive for a very long time so you don't die very quickly to the tower. So if you're a champion with a high amount of damage, if you're against someone who's very squishy, or specifically if you're against someone who's quite low on health and doesn't have their summoners, those are all factors which will increase the speed at which you're going to be killing them under the tower, and therefore reduce the risk. Likewise, if you are quite tanky, then you can hold that tower for a while, so you don't necessarily have to just whack them out while you're under the tower instantly. You can take your time a little bit more, although generally speaking it's a little more risky to do this because the tower mechanics mean that you take more damage the longer you're diving, and on top of that it also increases your chances of being counter ganked by the enemy jungler. Like if you're taking ages to kill the enemy jungler might just come around and screw you over. There are some champions who have some very unique interactions with tower diving, and these are people who you want to be tower diving more on, or people who are better at doing it. Basically the best examples of that would be someone like Aatrox with his passive. He can just tank tower for literally ever until he dies, because his passive means he's not actually going to die. He just revives and drops tower. However, if you are against someone who has either a lot of CC or someone who's very tanky, that makes things kind of hard to dive, because they're not going to die very fast. And also crowd control is especially hard, because then you get locked up under that tower and it means you can't kill them very fast, because you're just going to be spending time standing still, crowd controlled, doing nothing. I don't know if you can see either, but Shadows joined me for these next few points, which we'll be talking about lane ganking. Now, lane ganking is very simple. It is exactly what it sounds like it is. You sneak in through the lane and you hide in one of the side bushes, and then you wait for the enemy to kind of overextend, and then you pounce on them. Lane ganking is still kind of tricky in the mid lane because there aren't any bushes for you to sneak in along the lane, but you can still set something up because it's quite a short lane. Even if it's something like a Twisted Fate, he throws out his gold card, that should give you enough time to jump in, but generally speaking it's a little more tricky unless you've got good synergy between you and your mid laner. So essentially all you want to do when you're lane ganking is you want to sneak into the side bush while the lane is pushed up, and then just wait for it to push back towards you. Most times the enemy laner doesn't realize you're in there because you're hidden in a bush, and then when he walks out a little too far, you jump on him and you kill him. You don't even have to just go for the gank on him though. Lane ganking is very effective as a tool to counter gank. If your laners are pushed up quite far, the enemy jungler might think they're a good target to go and gank, to go and kill your ally. So if you lane gank and you sit in the bush and you wait and the enemy jungler comes around, and you can turn that gank and actually make it work for your favor instead. However, the risk of lane ganking is that if you stay around for too long and you're waiting for the minions to push into you, you could be there for a while and you don't want to spend too much time waiting. Lane ganking is a game of patience, but it's also not something that you want to just waste your time doing, because you will put yourself behind and not get too much out of it. However, if all your lanes are pushed, you don't even have to be ganking necessarily. There are things you can be doing that are useful as a jungler that you can be helping your lanes with without even showing up on their lanes. What this generally means is that instead of actually ganking for the lane, you can help protect the lane so that they can't get ganked. First way to do this is quite an obvious one. You can just ward for your allies. If they have vision, chances are they will see the enemy jungler coming in and they won't die to their ganks. Second point, which is somewhat related to the first one actually, is to counter gank. I did mention this when you're lane ganking, but if you can see where the enemy jungler is going and then you go to that lane as well, you can counter their gank, and that's really, really good for your team. Not only does it mean the enemy team doesn't get anything out of the gank because you're there to stop it, but it means that you actually do get something out of the gank as well. It's a perfect swing. Good vision makes counter ganking very easy to do, because if you can see where the enemy jungler is going, then you know where to go and counter the plays as well. And lastly, you can invade the enemy jungle. This is generally speaking a pretty good tactic. Invading, as a general rule of thumb, as long as you're not going to lose 1v1 to the enemy jungler in this situation when all your lanes are pushed in, is really, really effective. Firstly, you stand to get a lot of knowledge of the enemy jungler, where he's gone, what he's doing. Then you can either make counter gank plays, or you can just tell your allies, Shad, what you're doing, where he's going to show up, so you can protect them from those ganks. Lastly as well, you can also pressure that enemy jungler. If you're fighting him and keeping him on his toes, he's then having to look after himself, and it's very hard for a jungler to look after himself if he's being invaded, while also looking after his lanes if they're being pushed in and they need help. So if you pressure the enemy jungler, I love you too, Shad, then you should be also protecting your allies indirectly. There you go, Shadow. But anyway, that's really what I want to say on this topic. I didn't want to take this one too long, so hopefully you found something useful. A general rule of thumb, guys, if you can dive, do it, but be careful where the enemy jungler is, else he's going to counter you and you're going to be screwed. If you can lane gank, that's also very good as well. But if you can't do that, protect your allies with vision, counter ganking, or invading the enemy jungle. You can also do stuff like objectives as well. You can help your lanes kind of snowball in that sense, but this is more a video about how you can actually kind of help the lanes themselves. But either way, I hope you liked this video. If you did, feel free to give it that cheeky thumbs up. You can subscribe to me for more educational content. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and catch me streaming over at twitch.tv/Foxdrop. But either way, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will I'm sorry if I was too tired or dead or anything like that, but I hope you enjoyed it either way. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you in my next video.